Recording.
Meeting, please come to order. Beth, please call the roll.
We have Commissioners Levine, Funderburg, Barad, Noonan, Vasquez present.
Thank you. This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35, and the exact broadcast time can be found by contacting Channel 35. I have no opening comments. We have 2 public comment cards.
The first speaker will be Kyle Cherrick, and after him will be Miguel Vargas.
Great.
Hello, thank you. Kyle Cherrick with Pick My Solar. I was invited by Commissioner Vasquez to just come and share a little bit about the progress that we've made. Pick My Solar is headquartered over at the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator offices, and we've been there for 4 years. We provide an online marketplace for homeowners to get quotes for energy storage and solar electric systems for their homes. We operate across the country, and we've helped over 1,000 homeowners go solar. And just recently we launched a new partnership where we're working directly with utilities to offer the marketplace as a partner solution and a white labeled solution. Recently in September we launched with Con Edison New York on behalf of to their ratepayers. We offer them a solar electric marketplace, and we just started our first marketing campaign. So we sent an email out to about 250,000 single-family homeowners, and we had thousands of people come on and use the calculator and see kind of what the estimates of solar would be like in their area, and hundreds of people set appointments, and we've already signed up dozens of customers to add solar to their systems. And as you can imagine, with the recent snowstorms in the Northeast, a lot of those customers are now expressing a strong interest in energy storage as well, which is great to see. And so we're just excited that partnership actually, by the way, is part of their energy efficiency marketplace. We partnered with NURIT, which runs an energy efficiency marketplace. That way they can see if they're shopping for electric light bulbs or different things that they can get utility rebates for. They can also see what else they could do to become more energy efficient. So yeah, thanks for giving us the time, and we just wanted to kind of come and let you know that we've started working with some of your fellow utilities, and it's a great service. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. It's our practice generally not to engage with people in public comment, but I'm going to break the rule for one quick question. Do you have a view as to the impact of the announcement that the President made about solar tariffs?
Yeah.
And what will that do to the solar? To what extent will that impact the solar industry?
Yeah, it's a great topic. Generally what I've seen is that it's going to impact the most for utility scale. Potentially 8 to 10% cost increase, I think. On residential is actually pretty de minimis impact, and commercial as well. So I would expect probably less than 5% impact in the cost of a solar system for homeowners.
Good. Glad to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Miguel Vargas.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Miguel Vargas. I'm the Director of the Arts District Business Improvement District. If you're not familiar with what we do, we keep our particular neighborhood of downtown LA clean and safe. And so to that end, we operate a safety team, security team, and we work closely with LADWP. So I'm sorry, with LAPD. And so I'm here today to speak about your outdoor lighting program, because I can tell you that there is no better program in the city to fight crime. And there was, as some of you might know, the Arts District, we're on the eastern edge of downtown. It was an industrial neighborhood. Well, at one point it was, and now it's becoming a hub of housing, a center of commerce. And there's not the infrastructure that should be there for that type of neighborhood. But because of your outdoor lighting program, we've been able to put lights up in places that were pitch black, and so we are seeing a reduction in crime. So if you were to look at the crime statistics for the Central Division Police Station, you can see in places where lights were installed, vehicle break-ins have ceased. So again, I'm here mostly to speak about the merits of this program, and just to thank you all for the great work that you do to help our neighborhood and help our city be crime-free. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. That's it? On public-
That's all the speakers.
Okay. General Manager, I think we have a resolution to begin the General Manager's report. On the one hand, I love these. On the other hand, I hate these because we're losing such wonderful people. I think there ought to be a way to get them to stay, but go ahead.
We couldn't agree with you more. Rich Harrisick is going to take this part over to honor Albert Gastelum.
Good morning. You do have an item this morning, 23, to honor Albert Gastelum, who is our Director of Water Quality, and he is retiring. Albert is one of the all-time great guys. Everybody would say that has worked with him here at Water and Power. I always actually think it's important to read these resolutions. It's kind of your life on a piece of paper, but at least it looks pretty. But I'm going to highlight at least 3 of the whereases that I really think that capture Albert. He started in 1986, and 5 years ago he became the head of the Water Quality Division. It says, in part, Mr. Gastelum provided stability and trusted leadership throughout an eventful period that included system-wide conversion to chloramine disinfection, covering and replacing several open water reservoirs, commissioning new treatment plants, increasing requirements for water quality monitoring and laboratory analysis, and managing water quality challenges posed by a severe drought. And whereas Mr. Gastelum has consistently maintained focus on LADWP's mission of providing safe and reliable drinking water to all customers and regulators, and whereas Mr. Gastelum effectively established effective bridges of communication between LADWP and the City of Los Angeles, as well as formulating an excellent partnership with primary regulatory agency, the Division of Drinking Water of the State of Water Resources Control Board. So in those 3 areas, it's very significant. 5 years ago, when we did convert to chloramines, was it 5 years ago? Ish? 2014. We called it Cinco de Drinko. It was the 5th of May that we actually went over there. But the run-up to that was huge, and it really is the most significant achievement that we've had in treating our water for the last 100 years when we went away from strict chlorine. And that took great leadership to get to that point. The second item there, just talking about maintaining a focus on our mission of developing or delivering clean and reliable drinking water. We have really an ethos in the water system where we want to be looked at as at the same regard as the public health officials. I mean, we think that we are concerned as much with those officials with the health of Angelenos as anybody else, and that's the tack that he took his division and really the water system on and maintain that is that we're not just a utility, but we're providing and maintaining the health of the City of Los Angeles. And just the last one, we often talk about a lot of relationships that we have with regulators, and we really have a dynamite relationship with the Division of Drinking Water. They are probably the one regulator that we are most in sync with in terms of what we think is important, and though that relationship has been developed over the decades and was maintained and furthered by Albert's leadership. So I just want to thank him for those 3 great areas of leadership, being a personal friend. People often ask me what it's like to be head of the water system, and I usually say very quickly, I have a very great staff, and Albert just heads up that water quality portion of that. So at this point, I want to move aside and give Albert an opportunity to address you as well.
Thank you. Honored to be here. Honorable board and the great exec leadership team, my legal team, because for the past 4 or 5 years we've done a lot of work, and my team behind me being the divisions, everyone I've worked with, and I've got a lot of respect and admiration, and all the help and work that has taken place over the last 32 years, 4 decades, that sort of thing. To me, that's my net. And the whole team here and the amount of support I've had here and taking on the, the baton passed on to me by Dr. Perek for water quality and drinking the tap water, the best deal in town. And the water's never been better. And I'm proud to take up all the work that got us to this point and just continue on and make good strides. So very happy to have my wife Rose here to join me here. And it's been quite a career. And I didn't know what I had here when I first came on, being a mechanical engineer coming on. Little did I know that I have this treasure chest of opportunities, of projects, challenges, resolve, all of that stuff, friendships, and now just a giant treasure chest of memories here. So I thank you very, very much.
Let me say very briefly, Albert, the treasure chest is because of you and people like you. I've had the privilege of working with you. I think most of the board has had the privilege of working with you. You're a real professional and a real team player. The fact that the water quality is so good is not an accident. And as I quipped to Dave when noting that the resolution was about to be presented, on the one hand, we really wish you well, and we know you're going to have a wonderful future because you've had such a wonderful past. We also really hate to see you go. It's a real loss to the department. But we can't begrudge you the opportunity to find new pastures. And you leave such a wonderful mark with regard to who you are and what you've done, and we thank you very, very much. Other? So let's, first of all, there's a resolution.
I want to say something,
Yeah.
Chris. Commissioner Noonan,
yeah.
go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
please, but I don't think that I could articulate myself any better than you just have. So thank you, Albert. And I also extend my gratitude to his wife because I realize the hours that are put in away from family to achieve the accomplishments that the department has. So I thank both of you, and we will miss you very much.
And some brief personal testimony just for the record. Albert, and it won't be any of the pictures that I have on you. but very much, I want to thank Rose for your standing behind every woman or man who comes to us who we have to say goodbye to. We know that you'll always be a part of our family, DWP's family, just as, and you were just as, if not more, sometimes important in sticking through those times that were difficult. And not that there have been any difficult times at LEDWP, everything's perfect, right? But the personal testimony I want to make sure is recorded is the amazing response that you had and you led, Albert, in response to what was wrongly called the Watts tap water crisis. And you took risks, calculated risks, you took chances, you made order out of the chaos, and you weren't afraid to get out there and deploy your people out there and really get into community to not just tell a story in a defensive way, but talk about how proactively DWP had been and what a leader DWP had been in providing safe drinking water to the services, residential and commercial, all around the city, especially in some of the more underserved areas. So I want to make sure that that's recognized. It's just one of many examples that I witnessed that of your leadership, and nobody's really replaceable. You brought a spirit to the job that goes beyond what your job requirements were. I saw it. I saw the 24/7 work, and I really, we're going to miss you, but please stay in touch. And thank you very much for the service and the family behind you that served you and us.
I move approval of the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. Well, you got a unanimous vote. Let's take some pictures.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Really appreciate it. So much. Not commuting. I commute from Riverside. And do some traveling. There you go. There you go. Oh, no. That's heaven. You like opera? Thank you very much. Thank you. All right.
Well, Dave, that was the best part of your report. Do you have anything else?
I do have two things, two more things. One, I'd like to ask Senior AGM of Power Ray Coker to give what we know so far about the item yesterday regarding the solar panels and as much information as we have and the thoughts we've got at this point of the impacts. So go ahead, Reiko.
Sure. So yesterday, for those that aren't aware, the Trump administration approved recommendations to provide relief to U.S. manufacturers and impose safeguard tariffs on imported solar cells and modules, the solar panels, based on investigations, findings, and recommendations of an independent bipartisan U.S. International Trade Commission. The tariff that will be applied to solar import panels exempts the first 2.5 gigawatts of panels. The first year, there's a 30% tariff applied, the second year, 25%, third year, 20%, and the fourth year, 15%, where it will remain. It's important to note that this tariff only impacts the solar panel prices. It does not impact other soft costs such as labor, interconnection, permitting, fees, trackers, mountings, etc. Some of you have inquired on what does that mean for the department's ability to reach their renewable goals and some of the clean energy initiatives we have underway. Although we're still analyzing the impact, what we see today, the 30% tariff on modules may have a short-term impact on solar energy pricing. Solar prices continue to decline, which will offset some of that. Like the prior speaker, we're anticipating about 15% impact on utility scale solar. Currently, that's about 4 cents per kilowatt hour. For local solar, because the price for single-family residents, et cetera, is significantly higher than that, it's about 15 cents. You're starting at a higher base. We anticipate about a 5% impact to this single-family home, very consistent with what the prior speaker elaborated. We are also evaluating the potential of utility scale projects that use U.S. manufacturing, and to see, because we're not clear on whether or not that will have an indirect impact on those pricing. We're also evaluating storage and solar combination for our utility scale projects. We've also had significant discussions with developers that in anticipation of this tariff significantly increase their inventory, and it is already built into the pricing we've already gotten, so we don't see impacts on the projects we're currently investigating. So there may be little to no impact on the prices on projects that we are under negotiations currently. In short, the solar panel import tariffs do not pose a substantive threat to LA's ability to reach its near-term or long-term renewable goals. There is the potential of a cost increase for utility scale, and it may increase the cost for us slightly to reach our goals, but it may also result in a different mix of renewables in our portfolio. One important thing to note is we looked at utilities that still offer a rebate for solar. LA is one of only a handful that we could find out of the dozens of utilities still in California offering rebate for solar. So we still have funding. We have about $8 million remaining today in funding for these rebates. And of note, the federal investment tax credit of 13% is still in effect.
I have a quick question. So I've been privy to the rebate solar panel program for a long time. Also, I've been approached by many, many local Californian solar vendors that felt very disadvantaged by the fact that Asian solar panels were being sold at such a lower cost. So to me, I find this entire issue very fascinating. That being said, I know that there was a time where people were applying so quickly for the rebates that we couldn't keep up. And then General Manager Wright did an excellent job of advancing customer service to ensure that we were responding to people's requests to implement solar panels into their homes. I also know that there's been a lot of discussion about trying to incorporate solar panels into lower socioeconomic apartment complexes. I don't know how far we've gone there. But my question is why is there still $8 million left in the limbo with all of the desire and the movement and the passion to put solar panels on? I'm actually surprised that there is $8 million left. I would have thought that we had gone through it, probably a year ago. So could you respond to that?
I will ask Louis Ting, our Director of Planning and Development that is in charge of the solar program, to address that.
Good morning, Louis Ting, Power Planning and Development. So just to address the refunding issue, yes, we have significantly improved the rebate process and also the meter install. So in fact, our metric now is within about 2 weeks for residential metering install. So that has significantly improved since the program started back in 1999. So just to give you an idea, when the other utilities in the state has stopped the rebates program for the solar incentives, they still have funding in the program per se, but they had to stop because of the legislation. So we decided to continue the program. It's not that we already paid out, just giving an idea, about $313 million. So we have $8 million left, so it's a little bit less than 2%, 3% left. So that, give an idea, we are in the tail end of this rebate program. It's just that we had a very high goal in the beginning from back in 1998 when the legislation passed. So yes, we are still giving out the rebates at 25 cents a watt for residential and up to 95 cents a watt for nonprofit, governmental, and also affordable housing. So that is very key to our success of our programs, that we continue to adjust the rebate amount depending on the sector of the customer, and also depending on the amount of dollars left in the overall program.
Furthermore, we think we'll be out of those rebate funds before the end of the fiscal year. And in fact, as staff, we're going to look and determine if perhaps we can determine a way to bring additional funding and extend that program more as an incentive. So while we have spent a lot and there is a little left, it's not going to last very long.
Right.
So we've got some, but if you want a rebate, get in line quick. So and then we'll again bring back some thoughts about continuing it.
As you know, I have the highest regard for you, and I think you've done such an outstanding job as general manager. My concern as a commissioner was just that, given the fact that so many people were on a wait list and were frustrated, that we kind of deterred other people from signing up. But the fact that this is being opened again as new discussion and something that really is going to aid our goals for renewable energy, I think it's very important that we advertise that those dollars are still available.
I was going to say, just to clarify what Louis was talking about, when they passed the legislation, we had to set aside $300+ million for the solar program. So incentives very early on were a lot per kilowatt. So, and then as time went on and solar became more accepted and kind of got past the tipping point, then the rebates tailed off. So about 2-3 years ago, that program that required all utilities to spend that money ended. The department elected to continue the program to spend out the funds that we'd set aside. So the official rule requiring people to do the rebates is over, but the board elected at the time to continue the rebates until we spent the pot of money that we'd already dedicated for it. So that's the remaining money that Louis is talking about. At this point, the question becomes, do you incentivize something that people will do on their own so they can try to zero out their power bill? And so that's what the debate is now. And as the incentive goes down, it has its own economic drivers now. We don't really need to push it as we did early on to get it to be accepted and become a way of life. So now that it's this becoming more the norm, and then there's also the question of, are all people really benefiting from the rebates as equally as we'd like to? So that's why we're looking at rebate programs to decide, what's the real value of the rebates as it's structured currently.
I would just have one thing to add, and I want to thank you for the work that you've done, Louis, and working through all these issues on rooftop solar. I would like to know, maybe to segue with what Commissioner Nguyen said, I'll just be more specific. There has to be, in my mind, some way of designing, and without, Joe, I'm about to say something that you might want to interrupt me on.
That's often the case, but
there has to be some way that the design of this can deal with the equity issues beforehand and let the marketplace follow. What I mean is, whether it's zip code or council district or whatever, making sure we can let the marketplace run if we allow buckets of rebates to be used on a geographic basis without calling out issues that might be otherwise legally unpalatable. But we can do it on a geographic basis, I believe. I think that we do that with our energy conservation and other budgets. And so I believe it's incumbent on not just this commission, but future commissions, whenever this program comes back, because it is part of a portfolio in our renewables that is not, as Dr. Pickles said, is not the lowest cost. There are other benefits of resilience and reliability that go with these, to make sure that that we very specifically bring to the board how the solar rooftop program is being implemented, consistent with the equity metrics that this board passed 2 years ago. Is that possible? No, I just want to know, is it possible for that to be done?
We have to investigate and look at that. I feel uncomfortable saying that program will be done and implemented without knowing exactly how we do it. But yes, studying it, reviewing it, determining a way towards success is something we will absolutely.
So when it comes back to the board in any way, whether it's serendipity like this or otherwise, I just want to make sure that whether it's me or other future boards are informed up front about the consistency with the equity metrics data initiative. Thank you.
We'll take that into consideration when we do the studies.
Thanks.
I just want to conclude or add to Commissioner Funderburk's comments, in that I think equity and renewable energy sources kind of go hand in hand during this day and age. And so I really appreciate his questions, and I look forward to hearing your responses.
Last thing, at everybody's seat is a mouse pad, and I wanted to explain why it's here and what it means and why we think it's important. This year it's a pilot program. The desire is to implement it fully next year. It's aimed to send to one of these to all businesses, and most of our businesses are small to medium businesses, and most of those operate as a tenant in someone else's building. And one of the hardest groups for efficiency programs to reach are small businesses. This then is in front of them every day. They look down, it's got our website, it's got who it's from. You can't really advertise every program we have on here, but it gives us an entree into getting that customer base reminded that we're here, that we can start sending out additional communications with them. And I've got to tell you, I copied this from another place. It works. Where this has been done before happened to be where I lived. When I go into the dry cleaners, it's there. When I go into the shoe repair place, it's there. When I go into an insurance brokerage, it's there. It gets to that target market very effectively for literally about the least expensive possible way you can. What you're looking for in communicating is an impression, which means that somebody looks at what you're communicating. This gives dozens of impressions a day and literally helps build upon that awareness we're here, that awareness we have programs, and really, again, looking at ways to market and brand to market segments. This has a history of being very, very effective. So I just want to let you know why it's not just done because it's beautiful, and it is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Our photographer took this picture, and it's looking out that direction. It's a stunning picture. But it literally does serve a purpose and does create success and creates efficiency and conservation, literally from this very small investment in a mouse pad for those customers.
Again, General Manager Wright, I think you have numerous talents, but I think one of the things that really highlights your achievements the most is really your outreach to community, and you've shown that again and again and again. And so I see this as a reflection of what you've done in the past, and I think it's very smart, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comments from commissioners on agendized items and requests from commissioners relating to departmental operations. Commissioner Barad.
I just have a short comment. It was my honor to take part last Wednesday morning in the groundbreaking for the North Hollywood Wellhead Treatment Center, and it was really, this is very important for the Valley. We've been waiting for this for a long time, but not only for the Valley, but for the city as well, because this means that there'll be less dependence on imported water. My colleague Bill Funderburk was there, and Aura Vasquez was there, and the mayor. It was really a very exciting event, and Dave Wright was there. He spoke beautifully. So I just want to mention that this is a very important thing that we've done, and I think there are going to be more wells like this throughout the city.
Thank you, Jill. I would like to add that the efforts to get this reparation program going couldn't have been possible without the community support that this project had, and also the support from Councilwoman Nury Martinez, and how she's been a real advocate for her community and in the Valley to really clean up the underground water. It's very exciting. I hope that you all get to participate in future events like this as we continue creating more ways to continue repairing our underground water, or just bringing more safe water to all Angelinos at a very affordable and reasonable price.
Other comments?
Yeah, I did. A few things. One on the solar rooftop program. It took a long time in coming, but our board passed it almost 18 months ago. And it was passed with some difficulty, partially because it was still in formation, it was still in incubation. It was passed as a pilot program. Not all pilot programs are intended to work out. And I want to thank the department, Louis, Rayco in particular, for taking the risk on trying to do this. We can't win everything. And there's nothing the matter with not succeeding and then moving on. And so as community solar transitions to shared solar, I just wanted to see, Dave, if we could get some report and put it on our agenda as it moves to and gets reimagined in a new and more efficient way. The second thing was, and before I say that, Councilmember Krikorian was also at that, and I didn't want to leave him out for
He may be
heaven
listening.
forbid that we ever leave somebody out of anything. But he was there, I think, and Marty and the entire team. I had a meeting in City Hall with the Commissioner Joel Jacinto, who sits on our Board of Public Works. The commissioner is not only an excellent spokesperson for his community and brings his story as a Filipino immigrant, but he's a dancer, I found out, and has worked and actually studied under the tutelage of the iconic Rosie Lee Hooks, who has run the Watts Towers Arts Center for over 3 decades. And so the commissioner and I met up at the Watts Towers Jazz Festival, the oldest jazz festival, actually, not just in LA, but I believe the country. I think it's older, even possibly than New Orleans is. And if it's not, then too bad. But the commissioner and I have asked our various staffs to put together some type of MOU where the department can work together on branding itself through the Watts Towers Arts Center and the ecosystem that attracts not just a citywide but international audience. So Dave, whether it's Michael or Joe or somebody, I want you to make you aware of that that request may come from either Department of Cultural Affairs or Public Works, but that meeting did happen, and I want to make sure that it receives some attention because of the importance in, I believe, in using that. The last thing that I want to ask for a report back on is, and this came from my studies of renewable energy, interestingly, and the cognitive biases that McKinsey consultants attributed to Germany's launching into renewables without thinking first, kind of aiming, shoot, and then aim. And that sometimes happens with policymakers that are making decisions based on emotion and not all the data at hand. And some of the utilities in Germany paid such a price for it, they had financial stresses that wouldn't have happened if that didn't happen. So I've seen it. We all have biases. We all have, very few people like to talk about them openly, like I'm talking about them right now, and making people probably feel a little uncomfortable. But we don't make change unless we get a little uncomfortable. And for me, I think that having a briefing for the board on how we can improve ourselves in policymaking on the different forms of cognitive biases that exist out there would, I think, be most appreciated from the board standpoint and might be helpful with our management as well. So, wanted to know if that's possible. Dave, would that be possible? Dave? Thank you.
Other items? Okay, ratepayer advocate.
We don't have any prepared comments on agendized items, but I did want to extend my compliments to the Financial Services Office for bringing forward an annual report at this point in the year once the audited financials are done. They share amazing amounts of information with us between the time the financial year ends and the audit. And this is the culmination of that dialogue back and forth with them. And we really commend them for bringing it forward. I want to echo Commissioner Funderburg's comments that it may look like they're not reaching all of their goals, but the design of the rates was to give them room to grow and make sure that the ratepayers get the credit back when they're not ready for it yet. So to be able to show transparently that it's working as intended, I think is so commendable. I wanted to comment on that. Thank you.
Well, that's a very good introduction to the next item.
Thank you. Actually, thank you very much to the RPA and for commissioners. I did want to start off this presentation with a bit of good news that we received just late last week. So Standard & Poor's, who reviews our power system, water system bonds, along with the other rating agencies, has reviewed a most recent effort for us on a debt side and has now come forward with an upgrade for the power system rating from a AA- to AA. This now will bring 2 of the 3 rating agencies in line with AA ratings for our power system. We are going to be meeting with Fitch, the third, in the coming months, and we're hoping to get an upgrade there as well. And obviously, as you all know, this is a tremendous, it helps bring down those borrowing costs for our ratepayers, something very, very good to do. I just wanted to thank the Power System Executive Management for all their efforts and fiscal discipline, as well as, even though water is already doing very well on their ratings, to thank them for their efforts, and then to thank the FSO staff, Mario, Peter, and their team for their work. But it's great news for us, and we look hopefully to an upgrade in the next couple of months. So with that, financial results for 2016-17. So we completed the fiscal year essentially June 30th. However, it does take several months beyond that to finish up with the audit financials. Now that we have those results, we like to share those with you. And the first item is the financial metrics that are approved by this board. So 2 years ago, this board approved some financial metrics for us. And I'm going to put my glasses on. And this is the power system financial metrics, the historical trends. So you can see there debt service coverage, minimum of 2.25 times. We've exceeded that. We've been in excess of that minimum requirement. Days of cash on hand, minimum of 170 days. We've exceeded that. Full obligation coverage, we've came in at the level, and then the debt to capitalization ratio, it's a maximum setting, we've come in below that maximum. So we have met those financial metrics for the last several years, and we plan to continue to meet those metrics going forward. For water system, debt service coverage of 1.7 times, we've been in excess of that. The days of cash on hand, and then, of course, we've been under on the debt capitalization ratio. So a lot of effort goes into this, but we continue to meet those critical financial metrics that have been approved by the board. So in the area of capital spending, what you will notice, it's a not at all complicated graphic in front of you. I'm joking. But what we're trying to show here is that you have a level that's planned for, which is the far left column. That's that 1.4 billion. And then the next column over is the actual expenditures. So in the capital planning and budgeting and then against what we've actually spent, there's a difference there of roughly $356 million, which becomes that middle column, the green shaded column. So you can see there that as we underspend, a certain portion of that spending is associated with cash, and a certain portion of that is associated with debt. And then you can extrapolate and take it on further, and you can see how much of the cash, for example, is broken down into base versus pass-throughs, and then how much of the debt is broken down into base versus pass-throughs. And this is important for us, and it's something that I would say the evolution of this graphic is really based on our ongoing conversations with the ratepayer advocate. They've given us a lot of very important insight into that, and it just helps us better understand when we're not able to achieve the levels that are targeted as part of the capital spending, what does that mean financially for us? You can see the next slide now is actually, let's see, there we go. You can see there the pass-through capital expenditures, budget and expenditures for 16-17, again for power system. So this is all of the capital spending tied to the pass-through adjustment factors. We were under roughly $265 million, roughly 28%. So the budget column is the gray shaded column to the far right, and then the blue column stacked up next to it represents the actual expenditures. So that's how we did on the pass-through spending side. And on the base, or non-pass-through, also underspent about $91 million, or roughly 17%. The under expenditures due to a number of things. It could be timing on capital projects. It could be cost savings achieved in certain areas. But it largely happens to be that we have various projects where the timing was planned for, yet it didn't materialize in time, or it came in later in the fiscal year, and so therefore the expenditures ended up being a little bit less. And the challenges that both power system and water system face too are ongoing, such as attrition, trying to fill critical vacancies, and then trying to get contracts in place as well. Moving on to the water system, again, this is the capital plan versus actual spending. You'll see their far left column is roughly that 1.04 billion, and broken up between cash and debt. And then the next column over, the 706 million, which was the actual expenditures, representing a difference of $333 million, broken down into $53 million of cash and $280 million of debt. As you extrapolate further, you'll see that the breakdown there for pass-through and base on the debt piece, as well as on the cash piece. So again, just the financial results of what happens when we're underspending those areas. On the water system side, for pass-through capital, the under expenditure is roughly $261 million, roughly 28%. The variance was due to some underspending in water quality and water infrastructure, recycled water, as well as water conservation, LA Aqueduct. And then we had some increased expenditures in the Owens Valley regulatory that occurred in the same period.
Neil?
Yes.
I just want to ask you about the underspending in water quality and recycled water. What accounted for the underspending in those areas?
So again, largely it's the timing of the capital projects. And when we budget out, we'll budget out for many years, 10 years within our budget system. And the water system actually has plans that typically go out even further than that. It could be 15 or 20-year plans. And there's an issue when it comes to the timing of projects. And what we see is that we try to be, the systems will be as conservative as possible. They will build in some flexibility in case costs are in excess of what they planned for. So there's part of that. But it's, I think, largely a timing issue that usually we've seen. And again, we have challenges when it comes to trying to get all the hiring done and the training for filling vacant positions. Power system, it could take 4 years for some of the critical positions to get fully trained. They will perform some of that work while they're undergoing training, And there's a period of time for training as well when you look at the water crews, and then again trying to get capital equipment purchases. We have delays getting some large equipment, especially on the power side, for example. We're having things shipped from overseas, and they can be delayed for months on end. So it's usually timing, but I mean I'll be happy to turn it over to Richard if he wants to provide just some additional insight.
Generally, that's correct. So it's not that we have changed our plans to make improvements or place capital funds towards any one of those. So it's a combination of delay in just labor costs. Oftentimes, with a lot of these large dollar items, it would just be a contract that didn't get awarded within the fiscal year, and it just bled over into the next year. Because that's where you see a lot of $100, $200 million capital outlays.
So does this mean that this is going to go over to the next fiscal year, and that we'll be spending more because we spent less in 2016-17?
Go ahead.
Hopefully we say the same thing. Let's start on 3. But it just basically means the whole schedule and the expenditure schedule just shifts over slightly.
Yes.
Yes. So it's not
to the
that
next.
And everything on that year
Right.
then shifts
Shifts
down the
over.
line.
Okay.
So it's not like we're doubling up and we're going to see a big bump.
If you think about the big projects, because any big project in water or power is multi-year. And so typically, we're trying to keep the schedule as tight as we can, but things slide because of design changes or contracting issues or maybe
grant funding,
field conditions. And like Rick said, in the water quality, your headworks project, your reservoir covers, all those are on time to meet their compliance deadlines, but those are multi-year projects. So when Neil cuts the budget out, for those projects, he's basically taking a 12-month snapshot of something that's got a lifespan both before that and after that. So every year when we look at the budget, we try to get the most accurate schedule we can predict in place, but it is a snapshot of continual work. So the work hasn't changed, it's just it may slide differently within that period of time, but the budget you see is just a view of that particular time in the life of a project that's much longer than just that year.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I want to add as a non-engineer, so just a reality that engineers are optimistic when they make their plans. And I don't care whether it's LADWP or any utility, their goal is to try and get as many projects as they can do as quickly as they can, and they're working on them. But if they, to simplify, if they budget 12 projects in a year, usually they get to 10. And there's still people working on those other 2. They just don't get to that point of award. And this is very consistent in the industry that you maybe spend 80% of your budget. And again, I've always treasured that optimism because it means we're pushing forward and they're dreaming and moving forward to figure out how much they can improve the system, better the system, move technology forward. So don't quite get to everything in the time frame they expect. One of the great things with DWP is we don't pass any of those costs through to our customers if we have been a little optimistic and something delays a year. So the way our rates are set up, they're very customer focused, and nobody is charged for something until we absolutely start building it. So
I was going to say all that too.
Well, thank you. But I really do appreciate you explaining more of the psychology of engineers.
Optimistic, for sure.
So, and if I could add to, we do spend quite a bit of time as we develop the budget for the coming fiscal year, looking at the prior expenditures and trying to sharpen the pencil, working with water system and power system so that those estimates come in closer and closer to what we actually spend. So I think, we've been meeting with them and working with the project managers, and I think they've gotten the message, and I think that as we look at this in future years, that difference will be less, but there will always be a certain amount of optimism or schedule shifts and things like that will occur. So moving on to the non-pass-through capital for water system, again, a little bit of underspending there, about $43 million, and that's largely due to some under-expenditures in the operating support area and infrastructure base. An example for that would be we had budgeted for the ERP system, and while we're working on that system, we haven't realized a lot of those costs just yet. So those will be coming, but it's a shift issue. Moving on to revenue then, and related. So 16-17 revenues, this is power system, retail sales. If you look at the very, very bottom of the sheet there, you'll see the actual versus budget. So the budget revenues for power system retail sales was 3.6 billion, and the actual revenues were 3.42 billion.
It's
Um,
6.
That difference is roughly 240 million, and then you can see the graphic above that breaks that down into how much that difference is associated with the rates being less than what had been expected, and then the additional consumption that we've seen from the customers. Again, the customers have been getting the message and they've been conserving. This is true on the power side, it's even more true on the water side. So that's what this is showing here, is that we have a difference there due to consumption and rate. If you look at the next slide, go. The pie chart, you'll see how that breaks down into roughly 85% is consumption, and then about 12% is system loss. We have a theoretical average system loss of 11.2%, and the focused area I'd like to point to your attention is the roughly 3%, which is labeled as estimated consumption loss. And why that's important is that that is an area that we know we could improve upon. So when it comes to the areas working with the billing system, for example, there are areas that we know to make further improvements, we can bring down that unbilled revenue. So just something that we're working on, and hope to show some progress going forward.
Neil, excuse
Yes.
me, could you comment on, you talked about the reduction being attributable to, in part, to energy efficiency. My bill has first went down after I put solar in 2010, and then I got an electric vehicle a year ago, so it's gone up, which is actually good for DWP because it's in front of the meter load.
We thank you.
And thank you, because it's cheaper than gas. But are you factoring that into your analysis, given that you have no way of tracking how much electricity consumption is by electric vehicle and how much is by other usage?
Yes, actually, when we look at load forecasting, and as FSO assists power system in the IRP efforts, we do quite substantial calculations looking at the impact of the EV program, for example, solar adoption, and a number of criteria. We actually met this morning for about an hour on that very subject to look at the next, I think it was 20, 25 years or so, in terms of what the costs are, what the potential is on the energy efficiency. There's a base scenario, there's an advanced energy efficiency scenario as well. So there's quite a bit of analysis that we do. Our focus is more on the financial implications of that, but there is quite a bit of work being done on that area. So we do take that very much into consideration. It's difficult. We have to do projections, then we have to go back and look and see what was achieved. So it's not precise, but there's a lot of analysis that goes into it.
And I didn't mean to misrepresent. I know that we have ways of tracking electric vehicle electrons through the program we have, but not everyone, including myself, has one of those special meters. And so as the number of electric vehicles doubles in the next year, registered ones, at least it's somewhat predicted to, with the Bolts and the Model 3s coming online, I think that it'll be interesting to see how that gets factored in, how we plan on tracking it as well.
Absolutely. And for us, it's very exciting too. We look at electrification of transportation sector, whether it's the port, airports, metro, for example, the investments that they're making. They've been contacting our staff just recently about a comparison of CNG and electric vehicles and diesel vehicles. And the savings, the potential is enormous. So thank you very much for that question.
Great.
Neil, I have a question. How much does the weather, the hot summers, how does that correlate with the consumption?
So that's a great question. When we do, I think it's a weekly report that gets done by the rates group right now, working with Power System, and we look at the net energy for load, for example, we do a weather normalized, not just the actual that we utilize, but we look at the implications of the weather and how that affects the consumption as well. So we do take a look at that. We've had years where we'll hit our system peak, and for those periods of time, you'll see that demand is enormous. We'll have to work with our various partners in the commercial side to try and reduce the impacts on the system. But we do take weather very much into account when we look at that. And when we do our load forecasting, we look at weather as one of the primary components that you're utilizing when you're doing your analysis. So weather is one of many, but it is one of the important ones we do consider.
This last summer was like the hottest on record. So.
It was quite high. What I could tell you from a purely sales perspective would be for power sales, hot and humid are the key. It seems like if it's hot and humid, then the AC goes on, and that drives up demand. But hot days are not always indicative, but hot, humid days tend to be, yes.
And one comment regarding this last summer season, that is not reflected in these numbers. That will be the current fiscal year.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this is for the end of the 16-17 fiscal year. Yeah, June. Okay, so let's move on to water and look at the water sales. So what you'll notice there, at the very bottom again, the budget assumed $1.17 billion in retail sales revenues. The actuals were just under $1.1 billion, and that breaks down into roughly $92 million difference. A portion of that is the rate variance and really consumption variance. So again, our customers have been very supportive, have gotten the message about reducing their consumption on the water side, and that accounts for the largest portion of the difference from what we had assumed in the budget for revenues versus what we actually realized. Just a lot of reduction in consumption. So the next pie chart, again, similar to power system, again, consumption accounts for, in this case, 91% of that. System loss, 6%. I know that water system had gone through a really great effort on looking at system losses. And then what I wanted to focus your attention to was the 3% difference there, which is that estimated consumption loss due to things such as non-billed consumption, some metering issues, and data handling issues as well. And the revenue there, and that's really, I look at it as a positive. That's our area for improvement. That's an area that we know we can improve upon, and that work is being done now by the folks in customer service and billing, in the billing units. So it's just the one area I wanted to point out, and to the extent that progress being made, you can see there's roughly $30 million or so that we can try and capture going forward. So turning to labor and non-labor expenditures, as part of the rate action, the approved rate action, the department had multi-year estimates for the expenditures in the area of labor and non-labor, for example. What we've seen as we look at a comparison of those numbers, what was planned for in the rate case versus what we've actually realized, you'll see a difference there. That 16-17 actual, the rate case assumed roughly 1.8 or so billion, and the actuals were roughly 1.95. And largely, what's happened is we had additional funds budgeted in the non-labor area that were not spent. As we were preparing the rate case and the budgets back then, there was still some uncertainty as to what that balance would be and how it would change from year to year in terms of the contracted resources versus in-house labor. And so as we've seen, you'll get to the non-labor slides. On the non-labor, we've been underspending. On the labor, we've been a little bit overspending. The net result, though, is we're still coming in under the rate plan. So we're still spending less than what we had shared with the public overall. As we look going forward, you'll see the numbers for 17-18 are current year estimated.
Let me, excuse me for a moment. So let me ask you this. Are we spending less because we cannot secure the appropriate individuals which expertise we need to fulfill department positions?
So actually, we're spending more on the labor side. We've net filled 1,000 positions over the last 4 years. So we've made some progress. We do still anticipate quite a bit of attrition, and we have a large percentage of our workforce that will be eligible to retire. About 40% or so will be eligible to retire. Where we've had a lot of challenges, though, frankly, has to do with trying to get contracts in place. We have seen delays in getting contracts in place, so the non-labor budgets have been underspending because those contracts haven't been executed in the time that we anticipated during the rate case. But on the labor side, we've been making the necessary investments there, I think, in anticipation of the turnover that we expect as well.
Yeah.
So a little bit higher on the labor side, lower on the non-labor side. But if you combine the two, we're still coming in with expenditures less than what we had shared with the public during the rate action.
Well, all I know is that we have a very high trajectory of retirees that are coming up. And I also know that we have a need for new expertise within different fields within the department. I realize that it's been very difficult to reclassify positions and to get those people employed within the department. And so I think that this is a very, very crucial issue that should not be skimmied, but really needs to be really divulged into and addressed.
I think, you know, you're exactly hitting the point. So what's happened is in some of these areas we thought, like in the past, in the Andes area, we contracted a lot of line and pole work out. And we find that in terms of quality control, what the work product is, and be able to, you know, really get the work done properly, we're much more effective with our own crews. And so Andy's anticipating using a lot of those contracts than we thought, but there is a process to hire, and so some work you're seeing is a lag as we build up that staff. Rich is building a water mainline crews and that sort of thing as well. So as Neil said, there's been a shift away from as much contract money as we thought we might spend because the contractors are having the same problems we are in terms of securing folks, and a lot of times maybe they don't have the level of personnel that we would like to see on the jobs. And so we are building that staff to do exactly as you said, and we're very mindful not only of retirements, but also that fact that we need to build that capacity here to do all the infrastructure work. So I think what you're seeing is, in this case, a lag as we build up the staff, not intentional lag, but just a natural lag as we build up the staff to make sure we're hitting all those levels. We will get all the work done, and we'll get it all done properly. It's just that it's proven out that the better mix is to do more of it ourselves and rely less on those outside, because it turned out to be not as reliable as we thought.
If I might comment on that, the hope was, and it was optimistic as well, that 8% of incremental labor dollars would be going to staff versus contractors. And of course, the reality is everything takes longer than you think it's going to, whether it's outsourcing San Fernando Basin cleanup or the next filter plant, that working through these issues of figuring out how to optimize what you bring in and what you contract out is just taking them some time. But what our office does is when people call with this, we try and remind them that the capital doesn't jump in the ground. The pole isn't going to jump in the hole by itself. A human being's going to put it there. And it just doesn't, the capital just doesn't move without labor expenditure. So trying to learn from this rate cycle in time for the next rates to be set with that experience in hand is part of why we have encouraged this level of transparency.
I agree. Thank you.
So turning to the next slide, the non-labor actuals versus the rate case. This tells the different story, which we had talked about, is essentially the lag in the spending on the contract side and the focus more on the labor. And then as we look to the future years, 1819 and 1920, you'll see that we do anticipate getting closer to the projected expenditures, the non-labor area. So this is a pie chart that breaks down the comparison of the rate case versus the actual labor. And this breaks it down by major area, PSRP, the reliability system and the power, RPS, infrastructure, water infrastructure, class action, and then other areas. And This next pie chart here just breaks it down by system. So you can see there the power system representation of that amount, water system, class action, and then the balance and joint. And then really quickly, just the metrics results. So we've had our completed fiscal year for 16-17 on the rates metrics side. We have made a lot of progress. You'll see there that roughly the metrics are blue, which means that they actually exceed the target. 23 were within the acceptable range. And then roughly 18 are lagging behind or lagged behind the target levels. And then 1 which required some additional attention, and 2 that were information only for that 52 metrics. And then this is just a breakdown, again, of those metrics by joint, water, and power system. Overall, the results are good. Going through the effort on the metrics to track it, working with all the different organizations has been very productive. There's been a lot of conversation about, what are the causes for delays, what are the reasons for not hitting a particular target level, and what actions we can take to make improvements. So this is an ongoing process for us, and we look to see for even better results in the current fiscal year, but it has been a very good process for us to go through. And that concludes the presentation. Happy to take any questions you may have, but overall, the important takeaways would be that we met all of the critical board-approved financial metrics for the year, and we're making some really good progress in a number of areas. And we look to see further progress, and we'll be coming to you soon with the preliminary budget in March. And you'll see some more information there about additional investments in the labor area as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very, very helpful. Are there questions or comments?
Yes. When are we going to be seeing the budget for 18-19? I'm particularly interested in the same issues I raised last year being followed up on, related to our capital budget and our capital 5-year capital expense budget, and how that's aligning with our differing and changing and evolving understanding of how much gas-powered generation we need.
We will be coming back to the board in, I believe, the first meeting of March for the preliminary budget. Then take board comments, questions, any further direction there. And then we'll come back to the board again in May for the final budget.
And will I be able to get the draft capital budget for the 5 years out before that that proposed budget presentation, please?
We are working right now with the organizations on the budget, including some changes that are still occurring in the 18-19 numbers. But we would definitely plan on trying to get you the information before it would come to your board. Yes.
Thank you. With the proposed one, not.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Very good. Monthly reports, Financial Services Organization, September.
Just the monthly report for September. It's in the file there, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Hearing none. CAO report, November.
The report is included in your packet. I'd be happy to take any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Hearing none. RPS projects update, December.
The report is in your packet, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
There we go. I looked at the report. Thank you so much, and thanks to your staff for working so hard to make those numbers available. I wonder, in addition to what Commissioner Vanderberg asked for earlier, if we can have a better idea where the shared solar program is or when that's planning to return. I remember that earlier this year, we're just in January. Sorry, I meant last year. We had a presentation, and I think it was actually kind of deferred. So I would like to kindly ask you if you can please bring back the community solar and the shared program and see where we're at and what are our plans to that. Mr. Wright, do you think that's also possible to have it? Just let me know if you have any further questions. Thank you.
Item 9, discussion with neighborhood council representatives on any neighborhood council resolution or community impact statement filed with the city clerk which relate to any agenda item listed or being considered on this agenda for the Water and Power Board.
No community impact statements or formal positions were filed by any neighborhood councils on the items on today's agenda.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes from the special board meeting of January 9th. All commissioners were present. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any amendments? Hearing none. It's moved and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
They're approved. Okay, we have dispensed with item number 23 earlier. And so now we have items 11 through 22 and item 24. Do any commissioners wish to remove any of those items from the consent calendar?
Yes.
Commissioner Barad.
Item 17 and item 22, please.
17.
And Commissioner Funderburk will have to recuse himself on item number 24.
Okay, and 22, Commissioner Barad. Funderburk recusal on 24. Any other removals?
I have questions about item 15.
Item 15, Commissioner Noonan. Any others? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve items 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18, 19, 20, and 21?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those are approved. For those of you who may be waiting on any of those items, we now have to consider items 15, 17, 22, and a recusal on 24. Commissioner Noonan, item 15.
Thank you. So, as you know, I'm very well-versed in real estate as well as insurance. And so, doing my research, reviewing the items, I learned that we're actually in a soft market right now for this type of insurance coverage, and I don't see any outstanding liabilities that Aon has had to pay out, so I'm questioning why the increase in premium and deductibles.
Well, when we received our initial assessment by the broker was projecting that there was possibly a 15% increase. Since then,
but based on what? Because it's a soft market and there have not been any events.
well, in the past we did have 2 events.
Yeah, and that's why our premiums were increased in the past, but as for this year, it doesn't relate to increasing our premiums.
Correct. And since the submission of the board letter, I have gotten an updated market summary from the broker in which what you're saying has been reflected in that market summary.
Okay, well, I would need to see that before agreeing to vote again on this. Otherwise, I'm going to vote against it.
Other questions or comments on 15? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Excuse me 1 second. Is there a time frame on this?
The renewal date is February 12th. So if we're able to make it back for the first board meeting in February, then we would be able to be on schedule.
With the appropriate information
Wait, with all due respect, why was this information not given to us in a timely manner?
We had to do a RFP for a casualty broker. So the appointment of the casualty broker was just recently done, and they really had only a month to put together some type of marketing summary here. And I just received that summary this week, and we put the number in there based off of that initial discussion. And that initial discussion was taking into effect the fact that we had those 2 incidents in the past, and the market may want additional information about the things we put in place to make sure that those incidents wouldn't be occurring again.
Okay, well, I'm very, very privy and very well aware of how understaffed joint services is and how timely RFP processes are. That being said, this should have been reflected in a timely manner. The losses should have been explained to us. At this point, what has been provided is that we experienced no losses. It's a soft market, yet you want the ratepayers to pay more money. So at this point, you know, I could not in good conscience agree to your resolution.
Would it be possible that we, since there's no time constraint, or at least we can hear this item at our next meeting, for us to get the right information so that we can make the best educated vote on this until we vote on the next meeting? Would this
I think
be
there's a
possible?
misunderstanding as to when the next meeting is.
And the
because
next meeting is February 13th.
Yes.
Yeah, and
And this is
the renewal date is February 12th. And to the commissioner's point, the numbers have come back lower than the not-to-exceed number that we've submitted. But that not-to-exceed number was submitted as just to receive the authority so that we know that we would have what we need to be able to get this put in place. And the intention at any time we submit those is that the broker would continue to market this program to give us the best possible rate and price that is available at that time.
I see.
What I dislike very much over the many years of serving on this board is the fact that you wait till the very last minute without giving us, you know, objective, complete information, saying, hey, we have a deadline, so please say yes. And so, just in good conscience, I'm going to vote no. I imagine that the other commissioners will probably vote yes because this insurance coverage is important, but I don't like the way that it's being presented, and I hope that in the future that General Manager Wright will oversee the fact that we do hire the unfilled positions to joint services to ensure that RFPs are met in a more timely manner so that all of the correct information is given to us as a commissioner, as a commission before making a decision. But I, given my expertise, will vote against this resolution.
Commissioner Funderburk.
Yes, I would, knowing that this agenda has been available to us as board members, to the president and the general manager, I will defer to the president, but I'm a little concerned that Commissioner Noonan's concerns that I have heard before have not been heard, and I would say that we have an expert on our board for a reason, and she doesn't need to demonstrate her expertise, she doesn't need to talk about it. I will testify to it separately, and that matters involving insurance or real estate need to get to Commissioner Noonan earlier. And she brought this loss issue up. I don't know the details of it. I'm not an insurance expert. I don't know the risk management business. I do deal with insurance litigation, but I want to respect Commissioner Noonan's concern, and I appreciate her raising this, and I do believe that she needs to be consulted a little earlier, with the recognition also that the system may be under stress and everything else. So I know that the system's trying to do the best that it can, but I think that we have a commissioner here, and I think that I view it as not a slight to her, but as our whole commission, I think, needs to be consulted on these areas where we bring some particular expertise.
I share Commissioner Funderburk's concern. I'm going to support it given the timing, but I have heard Commissioner Noonan raise these questions before as well. They're legitimate, they're appropriate. She does it in a thoughtful way, and because of the timing and because we don't have another board meeting before the deadline, I will support the resolution, but I associate myself with Commissioner Funderburk's remarks and Commissioner Noonan's as well.
I just want to thank all of you.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
So it's 4-1 support with Commissioner Noonan voting No.
Okay.
Thank you. Item 17, Commissioner Broad.
Hi. Yeah, I just would like a kind of a presentation on this because I read it and it's very technical.
I understand.
It's complicated and complex, and I wondered if we could just have this explained as though we were not actuaries.
I will try my best, ma'am. So, good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Linda Lee. I'm the Retirement Plan Manager with the Water and Power's Employees Retirement Office. And the item I have before you are several requests for amendments to the plan. However, because I rarely come up here for items with you, the Commissioners, I'd like to take a step back and give you a perspective on the Retirement Office and the role that you play in the plan and the amendments that you vote on. So the Water and Power Employees Retirement Plan was started on October 1st, 1938. We're a charter-created plan administered by a retirement board, which has a plenary authority over the plan given to it by the California Constitution and the city charter. I won't go into all the details of what they're required to do, but under the charter and the Constitution, they have the responsibility to administer the plan for the benefits of our participants, which are our employees, and their beneficiaries, and to minimize department contributions, as well as defray any reasonable cost of administration. On a side note on that, I'd just like to share that we're one of the lowest administered plans anywhere. In the city of LA alone, we're about $7 million, and the next city sister plan is about $10 million a year. So we're one of the lowest cost. The retirement board also has fiduciary responsibility over our plan assets, which are held in trust for our participants. We have 10,000 active members and 10,000 retirees and beneficiaries. We have 2 tiers of benefits, just like LEHRER's. We have assets of approximately $14 billion, which are professionally managed by internal staff and outside consultants. Last year, we had a great year. Last fiscal year, our return was 12.9%. Our current year ending as of November, I don't have the December number yet, but it was over 16%. That's an increase of about $2 billion to the plan. But as a pension plan, we don't look at the great picture. We like to focus on those, but they're not what we're looking for on a long-term basis. So we're looking over the life of the plan, over the long term. So later on in one of the plan amendments, highlight this for you. Our funding level is about 89%.
I didn't understand what you just said.
Funding level means how much assets do we have to cover the liability that we expect to have. So our asset right now is about 89% of all the liabilities we expect to have to pay out. A perfect plan is 100%. There is no plan out there that I know of that's 100%. LEHRER's and fire and police, LEHRER's is about 70%. Fire and police is about 92%. The retirement board consists of 7 members, 3 ex officios, 3 active and elected members, and 1 retiree member. If you remember back in November, we brought an item before this board to approve the election guidelines for the active members. That's currently going on, and we'll have a new board set by May of this year. The ex officios are the general manager, Mr. David Wright, 1 representative from your board, Mr. Mel Levine, and also our chief accounting employee of the department, Mr. Mario Ignacio. The active members are elected for 3-year terms, and the retiree representative is appointed by this board for a 3-year term. In many ways, we're like our 2 city plans. So the 2 sister plans are LEHRER's and Fire and Police, and LEHRER's and Fire and Police. So in many ways, we're like them, but in some ways, we're different. Fire and Police and LEHRER's are their own department. We're a division within DWP. LEHRER's and Fire and Police are overseen by a general manager that reports to a retirement board. We're overseen by me, and I report to the retirement board, but I also report to our general manager. So as you can see, there's a little bit of differences in us, and it's a little bit more delicate to navigate within our system. Another major important distinction between us and other pension plans, most pension plans administer their own retiree health benefits. We don't administer the retiree health benefit. That is administered by our HR department. However, we do invest their monies right alongside our money. As a plan sponsor, the department negotiates all plan benefits. So as the Board of Commissioners over the department, you approve any amendments to the plan. And the retirement board recommends amendments to the plans to you. If you should approve them, then the retirement board will adopt those recommendations. So that's a little background into how the retirement office works. If you don't have any questions, I'll go into the specifics on the actual amendments themselves.
Please do the specifics.
Okay. So the first one, this one you probably recognize from this past summer, where there was negotiation with IBEW Local 18 regarding their contract. And this is the reduced vesting requirements for Tier 2 members. So on this one, if you notice on the left side there's current, on the right side is proposed. In the current requirement, the minimum age for Tier 2 employees is age 60 with 10 years of qualifying service. Service retirement, to differentiate between vested retirement, service retirement, I work and I retire as I qualify. Vested retirement, I work, I qualify, but I don't retire, I quit for a while and then I come back at age 60 to retire. Those are the difference. There's a little bit difference in the benefits level. So service retirement is currently at 60 with 10 years. It's being changed, reduced to 60 with 5 years. Vested retirement, it's 60 with 15 years. It's being reduced to 60 with 5 years. So I can start at age 30, work 5 years, quit, come back later on at age 60 and get a 5 years of retirement. Okay? And this was negotiated with IBEW in their contract. So since that time, what we've done is we work with Director of Labor Relations to meet and confer with all the other unions in the department to make sure that this was across the board. The second, before I go into it, the cost for this plan amendment is 0.01, an increase of 0.01 to the department contribution rate, which is approximately $93,000 per year. The next set of amendment is aligning our actuarial assumptions with those used in our valuations. So the valuations is used to determine how much liabilities do we expect to have. Earlier I spoke about the funding ratio. So how much liability do we expect to pay in the future? To calculate that, there are assumptions that we use. When are you going to retire? How old are you going to retire? How old will you be when you die? How much are you going to retire with? So there's a bunch of different assumptions that we use to calculate how much liability we have in the future. In most plans, the assumptions automatically align with the valuation. The retirement board adopts those valuations based on experience study. We put in assumptions. Our actuary goes back at some point and says, okay, you assume that, let's say, the COLA is going to increase by 3%, but COLA is not increasing by 3%, it's actually 2.5%. So your experience is not what you are assuming, so we recommend you assume a lower experience. And as they adopt those assumptions, we use those assumptions to do the valuation for the plan. Most plans, once the assumptions are adopted, the calculations in the plan automatically aligns with those assumptions. Our plan's a little bit different. We use one set of assumptions for the valuations. We use a different set of assumptions to calculate plan benefits.
Plan what?
Benefits.
Why do you do that?
Because the way the plan was written, it's specified in the plan on how we do the calculation. So the first one on here is interest rate crediting. In the plan, it specifically says that you shall credit interest rate at a set percent. So it's currently set at 7.5%. So for us to change that interest rate crediting, we have to do a plan amendment. So that's what the item is before you. Right now, it's currently 7.5% in the plan. The assumption is 7.25. So we're proposing to align those two factors together. However, this amendment goes a little step further. Instead of saying we're just going to align it with the 7.25, this amendment is going to say we're going to go as low as 7%. So for the next time when we do an experience study, which is required every 3 to 5 years, if the retirement board adopts an assumption that is at least 7%, then we can automatically go with that new interest rate crediting without having to come back to this board for another plan amendment. Same with the mortality table. Mortality table is currently, in the assumption, is the RP 2014, without going into technical. It's basically an approach where there is a belief that in every generation, there's improvements in mortality. So me retiring this year will live less than somebody who's going to retire next year, who's going to draw on their retirement a lot longer. So recognizing that, the retirement board has already built into their assumption that every year, no matter what's going to happen, there's going to be improvements in the mortality. So this amendment will take that into effect. So I would never have to come back for another plan amendment on the mortality table.
Never?
Unless the interest rate is below 7%. Okay, so this amendment actually goes a long way into making sure that we don't have to come back with another amendment.
I wanted to ask you a question of item 3 in our notes. It says it's going to require a 6-month break in service prior to reemployment in the city department in any capacity. What is the rationale for that?
I'll get to that one next. So that's the third one on our item. So for this one, the cost savings for the one that I just talked about with the interest rate and the mortality table is $8 million per year, and that's every year going forward. So the next one, the one you're asking me about, Mamie, is the period of separation. Under the IRS rules, and let me just take a step back. I want to stress, and I don't want anyone to get misinformed about this, the department and the plan is not encouraging someone to go to retire and then seek reemployment with the department tomorrow, whether it's a contractor or in any other capacity. That's not what this is intended to do. What this is intended to do is to help protect the plan and the department from inadvertently violating the IRS rules. The IRS rule says basically that when you separate from department service, meaning you start taking a retirement from us, you cannot tomorrow then start working for us again. You have to have a bona fide separation. So bona fide separation, that's called a violation of in-service distribution rule. In-service distribution says if you take a retirement, then you have to quit. If you later on go and work for the same employer, you can, but you cannot have a promise at the time of retirement to get reemployed. So the IRS says we will evaluate this on a case-by-case basis to see if there's a violation. When a violation occurs, there's several penalties that can occur. The loss of the retirement benefit, tax issues for the plan and for the participant, and also if you're working, you may not get paid for the time you work.
Is it 6 month, is that our rule or is that IRS rule?
So with the IRS in-service distribution rule, what they said is you cannot have that pre-promise. That's the only requirement.
Cannot what?
Have a promise. So when I go to retire, I can't tell my employee.
But the 6 months.
Right.
Is that IRS or is that DWP?
That's DWP. So what I was trying to, in the in-service distribution rule, they don't have a set time. The guideline to that in-service distribution rule is that we evaluate it and we'll look, usually a year is a good break in service. But they don't say you have to have a year of break in service. They don't say you have to have a month's break in service. They only say that you cannot have a promise of reemployment. So for us, on a case-by-case basis, that's very precarious. So the plan, the retirement boards wanted to put some hard deadline in there. And that's why we're putting into the plan a 6 months requirement of a break. That doesn't mean that, let's say that if I retire tomorrow and you say, okay, we'll come back in 6 months, we'll rehire you. You still violate the IRS rules. But what it does, it is at least requires now a 6 months, whereas before you could come back 3 months and still get rehired.
So as long as you've separated it for at least 6 months, you can come back.
And you do not have a promise of reemployment at the time of retirement, and you cannot come back to work for the department in a capacity which makes you a member of the plan again. So you could come back as a contractor, as an exempt, but not as a civil service employee contributing to the plan.
So let me give you an example. Somebody retires, and 6 months later, we determine because of unexpected retirements or unexpected separation by someone that we have a skill that we need, and we'd like to bring back a retiree as a contractor for 3 months to help train a new person. We can't do that right now. We literally put the retiree at risk because we don't have a formally set time frame that they're absolutely separated before we could consider bringing them back to provide that training for the 3 months. And as the market changes, as all the retirements occur, there have been times when we want to look at, hey, there's a retiree that even retired 2 years ago, 4 years ago. But sometimes it's retired 6 months ago. And we write, without having this set, we provide some risk to those people we'd like to utilize for the training purposes, and we provide some risk to the plan. So this allows that sort of opportunity. It doesn't mean we're going to go out there and bring a bunch of retirees back, and they're not going to work for us. It's through a contractor. But even now, we won't bring someone back through a contractor unless they've been gone 6 months But at that point, if it looks like it's beneficial for the department and our ratepayers, hey, we can bring that person back to provide some very necessary training that otherwise it's going to be way more costly to go out on the open market and get.
I understand that. Now, when that person leaves, then do they then get their pension benefits starting as soon as they leave during that, say, 6 months or a year or whatever?
Yes. They're a retiree. They are a retiree at that point.
And if they come back,
and I got to say, come back does not, we do not hire them back
okay,
as an
if
employee.
they then are rehired to whatever purpose, they're still getting their pension from DWP.
Yes, because they're not working for us anymore. They're working for
the
a contractor.
So they're really getting paid by the contractor for their services, and they're getting a pension.
You're right, but we're going to have to contract for those services, and those services will usually be more expensive to contract for than if we can, because we have to go have somebody come learn our system and then train this employee or find someone that might have that expertise. The only reason we would do this is because it's more cost effective to do this than go find somebody who didn't know our system as well. So the outlay would be there, but it's actually less expensive for the department to do it this way than go out and find someone who didn't work for us, bluntly.
Do you find people taking advantage of that?
And others are, I can't think of more than a few people that we've, that this has occurred with. You know, literally a handful, 4 or 5. But some have a very specific skill set, and they've trained someone, and then that person quits or that retires or sometimes passes away, and then all of a sudden there's, oh wow, we need someone to come back and now train somebody new.
Yeah.
So this isn't some big mass program. This is like a very specific individual kind of situation.
I was thinking of someone taking advantage of it in the pejorative sense.
Well, that's where you can't create a scheme to promise to bring someone back.
And that's the intent of this, is to stop people from, if they are taking advantage, to not take advantage, because the plan could be on the hook for tax issues. So we're making sure that there is at least a 6 months break so that it should defray any promises.
You have my blessing for this Band-Aid approach, just temporarily, but I think the greater picture truly is that, we invest a lot of money training people to become expertise within different divisions. We augment their leverage and advancements within the Department of Water and Power, and I think that us as a commission, we truly should be responsible for ensuring the fact that they are documenting their notes on every project, on every research assignment, conference that they attend. That way, God forbid, even if they don't plan to retire, but let's say, God forbid, one of them dies, at least their information is left for, the person who's going to follow in their footsteps. And so I think that's the bigger issue. And I would never want the intellectual property that we're investing our ratepayers' monies in to be held hostage against them. So I do think that there needs to be an orderly fashion in which we are advancing our employees, applauding them as they well deserve to be so, yet also taking advantage of that intellectual property. That way, if they're not here because they retire or because they die, that somebody who follows right behind them can take over. And so, as a commissioner, that would be my suggestion.
I have a question. Given the exuberance in the current financial market today, I'm wondering why the rate of return is not lower than what you have already presented, like maybe 5%, which will be consistent with the 2020 plan, co-signed by both Burton and Coker. So would you talk about that?
So as I was talking earlier, the plan goes through an experience study every 3 to 5 years as mandated by the charter. We actually do it every 3 years to be proactive about it. And as part of the experience study, our actuary looks at the risk profile of the board and what we have invested our money in. And based on the historical returns, they come up with a assumption for us on how much we can expect an investment return in the long run. So it's not just looking at this small window. Over 30 years, what do we expect? And so their current recommendation to us is 7.25. We just finished that recommendation at the end of 2015. So by the end of this next fiscal year, we will do another one, and we'll see how the future looks.
And I'm sorry, go ahead. No, please. I have another.
Can I follow up on that? I mean, can you give yourself more flexibility than just setting 7% as a floor?
Yeah.
The markets, I mean, look, I was in pension funds in the 1980s. I saw the Japanese Nikkei go to 30,000. Just, it, recovered in the past 30 years. If we are at a point right now where 28,000, which is where we are, and we collapse, and it takes a long time to recover, this is the biggest asset that we have to attract employees, in my mind, because we are grossly, fairly underpaid at the upper middle management and end of things, according to the ratepayer advocate. Our top 300 or 400 or 500 employees are very underpaid. And this is one of our assets. This is a $15 billion fund, if I'm not
14,
mistaken. And does this include the health and welfare fund?
Yes.
And so the rate of return that you're going to be applying is to not just the pension, but also the health and welfare, correct?
Right.
So is there any reason that it can't be lowered, or is that just too much of a shock to our financial predictions because of the funding for the unfunded liability that would have to take place?
So I just want to say two things on that. The investment return is based on the experience study and assumption. So those change every 3 years as the board adopts new assumptions. So the fact that the market crashes tomorrow does not change our investment return.
No, I'm talking about long-term crashes. I'm not talking about crashing tomorrow. I'm talking about a bear market that's much worse than 2008, much worse than 1987, when it went down a third and sustained itself through the S&L crisis, much worse than dot-bomb in 2000, much worse than when the aerospace and all the other economies went down in the early 1990s. I'm talking about something that's just sort of cataclysmic, that may not be in the models that these very well-paid experts use for not just actuarial, but doing assumed rate of return. So is there a way of giving you more flexibility to operate to reduce that rather than just setting the floor at 7?
So because, like I told you earlier, our plan is really odd, unlike other plans where they automatically align with assumptions. Our plan, it's written into the plan language, and so it affects how we calculate benefit. Anytime that we change anything in the plan that affects benefits, we have to go through a meet and confer process with the unions. And so in the past, historically, every time there's been a quarter change, we started out about 5 years ago at 8%. We went down to 7 3/4, 7.5. So each one of those has been a separate plan amendment. This one, again, was another separate plan amendment, and 7% was the best I could do.
If I could just add from the financial perspective and how we budget for our retirement benefits and the other post-employment benefits side, obviously we do projections using the actuaries. We take into account changes in the authorized positions for the department. But I will say that the department was really thinking forward a number of years ago when it decided to put more money towards its other post-employment benefits costs. Some systems you'll see out there who weren't pre-funding those kinds of costs are now behind in trying to catch up. And one area we could potentially look at is, obviously we wait for those experience studies and the results of that analysis to look at how that might change the required contribution rate. We could also run some scenarios looking at if we were to put additional funds towards some of the obligations we have. We have the death benefit, for example. There's the other post-employment benefits. The state has recently looked at putting additional funds towards CalPERS, for example, to buy down some of the accrued actual liability. There are steps we could take to budget from our side, allowing the system to continue to use its due diligence and its best practices in its financial areas, but we can bring additional options to this board for consideration in terms of investments we can further make towards the system to strengthen it in advance of those times where we could see a very large reduction in the markets, for example, which is very true. It happened.
I think that's very well taken, and nobody will want to talk about this until it's too late.
It's too late.
And that's just what happens. And so I really appreciate the effort that you've made as the general manager of the fund. And, you know, went to many council and institutional investors conferences, many, you know, to deal with these issues in the 80s when I was in this business. And I think these are very hard decisions to reduce your rate of return. I just want to make sure that the board is giving you the adequate flexibility to move further down if long-term market projections and conditions change such that you need to move the rate of return down. So when will you be back before again for something like this?
Our next experience study is end of 2018. I'm sorry, 18. And so we won't see that until the spring of 2019. If there is a downward in the interest rate, you won't see us again at that time because, like I said, there's a built-in 0.25% change. The one after that will be 3 years after that, then it's 2022.
And congratulations on the market performance, not just the market, you didn't do that, but I know you have a handful of managers that are investing the pensioners' money, so keep up the good work there.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor? Aye. It's approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you in a different forum.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Item 22, Commissioner Broad.
Good morning.
We have 2 speaker cards for item 22.
Okay. I just wanted to have a brief presentation on this, and I know how important this is.
Sure. Catherine and Eric will start a presentation in a moment. I just wanted to say, sort of, try to clear up if there's any confusion about how this report fits into the analysis of what to do at Scattergood. So this report is required by the State Water Resources Control Board. And in 2011, the State Board adopted a policy to reduce the use of once-through cooling at power plants, using ocean water for cooling to reduce the impact that power plants across California were having on our coastal marine environment and coastal marine resources. And so given that there's more than a dozen power plants up and down the California coast, as the State Board was moving forward with that policy, there was concern about the impact, potential impact on reductions in the use of ocean water for cooling or actions that utilities, including DWP, would take to meet those requirements, whether there would be an impact on reliability of the grid across California. So as part of that whole policy, the State Board required utilities then to submit a report annually about the reliability of their grid and the potential impact of any changes or differences in the schedule around reducing the impact of once-through cooling on our ocean resources. So LADWP negotiated a schedule with the State Board that has started in 2011 and runs through 2029. And And so we need to submit this report annually, looking at grid reliability. The state board wanted all the utilities to move as quickly as possible to reduce the use of once-through cooling and the impact on our marine environment. And so this report is sort of separate from the analysis about what to do at Scattergood. What the state board policy requires us to do is to cease using ocean water for cooling at our power plants. We have met all of our dates to date, and the next one coming up has to do with the Scattergood units, and that's 2024. So this report is separate from the analysis of whether to repower Scattergood or not. The mandate is to cease using ocean water for cooling at Scattergood in 2024 and at Haynes in 2029. And so this report just is looking at a snapshot in time today, that those two dates, 2024 and 2029, continue to be the right dates. So I will let Catherine and Eric go through the presentation and give you a little more specifics, but I wanted to give you that context.
Thank you, Nancy, and good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Catherine Rubin. I'm Environmental Affairs Manager of the Wastewater Quality and Compliance Group, and to my right, I have Eric Montag. He's from the Power System. He's a Senior Manager of Strategic Initiatives and Planning. And like Nancy said, this annual report, you've actually seen it before. It comes every year, and it's all about whether or not what we're doing with eliminating once-through cooling, because that's mandated by the once-through cooling policy, if there's any grid reliability issues with that schedule. So to start, I mean, Nancy pretty much went over it. The statewide once-through cooling policy requires both CalISO, because they have the other transmission system in the state, and LEHRER to submit this annual grid reliability report until compliance is met with our ocean-cooled units. And so as Nancy mentioned before, our dates are 2024 for Scattergood units 1 and 2, and then it's going to be December 31st, 2029 for Haynes units 1, 2, and 8, and Harbor 5. The report is reviewed by this expert panel, and the expert panel, their acronym is SACWIS, and that is the Statewide Advisory Committee on Cooling Water Intake Structures. SACWIS is composed of representatives from 7 different agencies throughout the state, and they review these reports from us in CalISO to make sure that there's not any issues with our grid reliability for that particular year. And as I said, this is going to be an annual report. You've seen it before, so we'll be submitting one again next year. Yeah, go ahead. Next slide. The current report covers the long-term transmission assessment for summer 2017 transmission reliability assessment and the resource adequacy projection. And then this report concludes, as it has in the past, that all of our coastal units are needed for our system reliability, and that the current policy is our most aggressive and as short as possible as required by the policy. And then lastly, we just show the schedule. And what we mean by on schedule for 2024 is that whatever we decide to do, we are eliminating once-through cooling by December 21st, 2024, as required by the policy.
Yeah, and I just might add that the policy itself does not direct either CalISO or DWP to do anything other than address the once-through cooling. It does not say, repower or shut down or do something else. It really is focused on ensuring that we're both meeting the deadlines for eliminating or reducing the use of ocean water for cooling and maintaining the reliability of the electric system across the state.
And in our case for LEHRER, it's eliminating. That's what we agreed to. Any questions?
I think it's a very complicated project, and I applaud all of you for managing it.
Other questions, other comments? Commissioner Broad?
Well, I know I'm naive on this, but why are we eliminating the ocean water cooling?
So the State Water Resources Control Board was very concerned. There's actually, this is also covered by the Federal Clean Water Act. There are requirements to, reduce harm to the marine environment. At power plants along the coast, they take in a lot of water to cool the power plants and then discharge that water. So there's impacts on marine life in both when the water is sucked in and when the water is discharged. And so California took a very strong approach in meeting what are actually federal requirements under the Federal Clean Water Act, and adopted a policy that sort of stated a preference for eliminating the use of once-through cooling. There are some other power plant operators across the state that are taking slightly different views, but I think LADWP took seriously the impacts that our coastal power plants were having on our coastal and marine resources, on our beaches and our near coastal waters, and given that our power plants are certainly middle-aged, that this policy offered an opportunity to take a look at the system as a whole and see where we could make some improvements.
What are the alternatives then to that?
There are standards-based alternatives. I think the federal the EPA rule is less stringent than the California rule, but we will be in compliance with the California rule by eliminating the use of once-through cooling.
But then what will you use? Do you need to use something to cool
the approach to date has been to switch technologies for producing power to ones that use much less, require much less water, that are air cooled. So the repowerings to date have been with a different technology than those plants had been originally built with, that required a lot of water for cooling. So Eric can give you a lot more detail about the technology.
That answers it. Our current plans to repower, just to your question, are for air dry cooled instead of the ocean cooled. So it is to repower, but it is to get off the ocean cooled power. Now that being said, Nancy mentioned the once-through cooling study, and when you talk about options, that once-through cooling study was a study conducted upon the request of some external stakeholders who had a concern about our future off of fossil dependency. So though that study may create, we're going to be studying, and it may create a plan once the study comes out of different options to repowering. And some of that could be a partial repowering, some could be no repowering.
But it won't be using once-through cooling, won't be using ocean water.
Yeah, regardless, it won't be once-through cooling. So this report is about the once-through cooling.
Yeah.
The study is about the gas aspect of using that to generate power in those in-basin areas.
Are you looking at other countries, Israel or Australia, and what they're doing in this regard?
In terms of the once-through cooling study.
Or options?
Yeah,
different alternatives?
So we have two different things going on at the same time, and I don't want to convolute this too much more, but I think it's important that maybe you see the bigger picture. So we have this grid report that has to happen regardless. We have the once-through cooling study, which we initiated last year, and we are at a point now where we're actually getting some modeling results, and we're looking to have significant results by this summer. Some earlier, actually with Scattergood, it'll be a little earlier because we're getting to a decision-making point with that plant. Then you've got the 100% study. And so to your question about other countries and what's going on globally, that's where the 100% study comes in. The once-through cooling study is specifically how does the repowering or partial repowering or no repowering impact our reliability. That's the prime focus. This 100%, this is more what investments is it going to take to continue our transformation. So one could say this once-through cooling strategy is an interim step on our way here. We just don't know what this interim step looks like. We thought we did until we put it on pause, and now we're studying it, and we're studying somewhere around 91 different types of
technologies.
but it's centered around 14 scenarios, 14, 15 big scenarios, all transmission, all battery storage, but then a bunch of sensitivities to each one of those. So there are over 91 different little scenarios that have to be run. This is why it's a time-consuming exercise.
Do your scenarios take into consideration climate change and very hot weather?
Yeah, so we're talking now about the 100%, which is a totally different discussion, but just to give you an overview of that, one of the key aspects of that study is we brought in the National Renewable Energy Lab as the project manager and the team lead. So what we do is we sort of as DWP, we take a step back and we say, okay, you lead the charge, and we assembled this advisory group. Again, I don't know how much you know about that, and I don't want to get too much detail unless you want more. But we have an advisory group that brings in different buckets of environmental, business, customers.
The neighborhood councils.
Neighborhood councils. And through a facilitation of NRAIL, not DWP, we meet with them on a quarterly basis, and we talk about where we're going in this direction. We've had 3 advisory group meetings. We have 9 more to go for the 2 years that we anticipate this will take. It's a bigger effort.
What are you calling this group?
This is the 100% renewable energy study. The city council a motion came out last year, and we are responding to that motion. We set up this mechanism, which is the 100% study, which has this advisory group. The motion was fairly specific on how they wanted us to do it, but they gave us latitude on how we could actually set it up going forward.
Excuse me, if I can add, Mr. Martin, for this study on once-through cooling, or what's going to happen to our once-through cool power plants, if that's actually a term, where would this study be done? When can we see the study?
Where would the once-through cooling study?
The once-through cooling.
So the once-through cooling is being done now, if I understand your question right.
When can we see
is it gonna be ready,
proposed
Eric?
results for one?
So the schedule for the actual study is the final, maybe stakeholder engagement would be summertime.
This summer?
Yes, but we have pulled out scattergood specifically, and we have focused our third-party consultants just on scattergood and all the various scenarios surrounding scattergood and our system. Now understand, our system, unlike other systems, our system is so interconnected that you have to study the whole system to answer this question.
Right.
So once we get this question answered, really scattergood being a 2024 compliance, that is the critical path.
Why did you pull out scattergood?
Because of the compliance date, specifically for that reason.
Because of the date?
Yeah, we are at a point that if we don't get a decision on scattergood, let's say the study comes out and says we have to repower, and I don't know I'm not being presumptuous because we're not involved, it's all the consultants, but let's say it says that. We have to get going with our RFP. You guys heard some comments earlier in this board about our contracting and building and everything. We're at that point now where we have to make a decision one way or another. So if the once-through cooling study says don't repower, then we got to look at what our new plan A is, because that we haven't looked at that. We've been repowering all along. This is what this study is going to tell us. But if it says repower, even partial repower, we've got a contract system, we've got a procurement system, we've got a design, and we have until 2024. So that's why that one's more critical.
Thank you.
We have more time on the other 3.
So we have possibly scattergood sooner than the summer, full once-through cooling feasibility study in the summer.
Yep.
And the 100% will probably be by the end of this year in 2019? Or what are you
probably summer of 2019 we'll start to see stuff coming out. Now understand the difference in the time frame is the advisory group, quite frankly. We have over 30 different advisory group people that we are stakeholders, again, environmental, business, ratepayers, that we are, and actually our ratepayer advocates even on that group. So we have a whole bunch of different interest, understanding, knowledge, and so what we're trying to do is facilitate a knowledge-based decision and bring in feedback from all of them and come up with a consensus. And it's quite an interesting process, to be honest with you. And in a good way. Say that straight up. If you come to these meetings, it is challenging, it's exciting because you hear the differing opinions. But more than that, we're educating each other. And that's really where you come in the middle, right? We should have an advisory group for Washington, D.C., quite frankly. I think it would work. But this is the value of this process. In the end...
We do. It's called the Congress.
We'll send you to Washington.
Yeah.
The entire advisory.
I'm retiring. So I want to emphasize the success of any of these studies for the 100% study. The one-stroke cooling is purely technical. Third party. They talk to our operators, they talk to our integrated resource planning people, they look at what we have, energy storage, energy efficiency, all that is taken into this one-stroke cooling study, technical reliability. This one over here, this one over here is just a little more, we're trying to get people up to speed in some ways and also to let them know where we're coming from. So,
got it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if I just make one last comment, because just to answer Commissioner Barad's question, we've completed 3 of these projects already and have been able to reduce our use of ocean water for cooling by almost 70%. So we know we can do this, and have every intention of meeting the next dates coming up. And this grid reliability report is a good check-in every year to make sure that we're on track, both meeting our environmental obligations and maintaining our system reliability.
Is there a motion?
Excuse me, President Levine, we have 2 speaker cards.
Oh, we do. We accumulated them in the course of this discussion. That's the risk of a long explanation.
They were here before.
Okay, go ahead and call them.
Andrea Leon Grossman, and after Ms. Grossman, it's Daryl Gale. Okay.
So I am I'm a downtown resident, and I live in a rare solar apartment. We have 115 panels on our roof. And, I mean, we could actually be the, if you needed a poster child for solar low-income housing, my building would be it. I also took the dash here. I don't use fossil fuels. I don't own a car. Everybody knows that 2017 was the second hottest year on record. We don't need any more investments in gas plants. We don't need more methane or methane leaks in our immediate environment like Los Angeles Basin. Let's continue to lead in Los Angeles by continuing with more solar panel installations and battery storage in both residential and commercial buildings. And why aren't there more government buildings and parking lots with solar? I don't understand that. I'm very happy what these consultants have talked about, that you are eliminating ones through cooling, because SoCal Edison at San Onofre, even though it's shuttered, and PG&E up at Diablo Canyon, they are contaminating our ocean close to shore with their leakages and also their heat going into the ocean. So thank you very much for your research. I would like to give a handout to the commissioners from Food and Water Watch. I am not a staff person, I'm just a volunteer.
Thank you. Hand it to the officer in the back and he'll distribute
Thank you.
it. Thank you very much.
That's
it?
last speaker.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. It's approved. Thank
I
you
just
very
want to
much.
thank you very much for your comprehensive report and answers to my questions.
Commissioner Funderburk needs to recuse himself from our last item on the general agenda, item 24. Is there a need for a presentation? And nobody else, I think, pulled it. So is there a motion?
There is a motion. I so
Second.
move.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's approved. Council?
At this point, we will recess into closed session in accordance with Government Code Section 5495, 7.1. and report any final actions taken therein.
Thank you.
Commissioner